Have you ever felt frustrated that your music practice doesn't seem to be delivering results as quickly as you'd like? Stay tuned. Hi, my name's Christopher. I'm the founder of Musical You. Welcome to the Musicality Podcast. This weekend, we had an absolutely phenomenal masterclass with Marc Gelfo. Marc is the creator of the Modacity practice app, and his masterclass was all about how to accelerate your music learning. Marc packed a ton into this masterclass, from highly practical, tactical ideas about how to practice, through to some quite deep emotional and mindset guidance. It's no exaggeration to say there were a couple of dozen really meaty ideas he shared, and I think everyone who came to the masterclass found plenty to accelerate their own music learning. We are excited now to be adding the recording of this masterclass to our library inside Musical U for members. But today I just wanted to share one little nugget with you. Marc's idea of hacking habituation. As you'll be hearing, this is a cool way to get more bang for your buck in terms of the time you spend practicing, and it also led on to some interesting discussion of the emotion of musical expression and mastering the inner game too. You're going to be seeing my brief introduction to Marc, and then a short section of his presentation, and then a little bit of the Q&A we did at the end of the masterclass where Marc went into a bit more detail on this. I hope you'll enjoy this little taster of Marc's masterclass and find it useful for applying in your own musical life to accelerate your music learning. My name is Christopher Sutton, and this is the Musicality Podcast from Musical U. So the topic of today's masterclass is accelerated music learning, and I'm particularly excited about that because we did a survey recently, both of our email list and Musical U members, and it was astonishing how many of you called out practice as a hot topic for you. It's something you were struggling with. And this came up in the sense that people were saying they didn't have enough time to practice, or they were putting in time but they didn't feel like they were really getting results from it, or some people saying they sit down to practice but they're just not really sure what to be working on and they wander around and go back and forth and it all feels very ineffective. Like if I had to sum it all up in one word, it was people frustrated that their music practice did not seem to be effective. And that's why I'm particularly excited to have Marc with us today. Marc Gelfo is an expert in just this topic. He is a neurosymphonic hornist, which is not a phrase you hear every day, and he has a passion for holistic health and self-actualization. He's the man behind Modacity, which is a popular music practice app you may well have heard of, which is designed to organize, focus, and track your progress with music learning. So this is kind of the ideal technology companion to somebody who really wants to make the most of their music practice time. I had the great pleasure of interviewing Marc last year for the Musicality podcast. And sorry, I should be polite and say, Marc, please do just say a quick hello to everyone before I ramble on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marc Gelfo. I also deeply care about effectiveness of music practice, just like you, and have been spending at least 20 years, 25 years thinking about it at this point. It's a great pleasure and honor to be on here. I really enjoy what Chris is doing with Musical You, and I'm looking forward to sharing everything I'm going to share today.
Because I think they want to do more, faster, faster, faster. In fact, the slower, bigger, stronger is the way to go. Okay, and finally, hacking habituation. This is a really fun one. Habituation simply means that you get used to things that are in your environment. Like most of you are not aware of the feeling of your shirt or your shoes or socks or whatever you're wearing. I know it's a Skype masterclass, so no assumptions, but that is something that you're not aware of. You habituate to it, or you habituate to the fact that you're breathing air. Well, when we practice, we habituate to our environment. We habituate to our sound. As a French horn player, I've always got the bell on the right side of my body. And one thing that I do is I just play reverse. And it sounds so different when the bell is in my left ear. It's really weird. Now, as far as learning goes and accelerating music mastery, we can actually leverage this fact. This is a major time leverage point. There's a bunch of environmental learning studies that show that you recall things better in the environment that you learn them in. So if you study for a quiz on a beach, then you will recall and perform better on that quiz at the beach than you would in the forest. Or orange classroom versus green classroom, you will do better remembering those things in the context that you learned them in. And that can be scary for us because we rarely perform in the places that we practice. So one way that you can hack this and hack this habituation is actually to change your environment and make sure that the environmental learning effect only applies to your internal environment. And one simple way I do that, can welcome questions about this, but one simple do it for the rest of your life tip that will really change things around is to change location in your practice room. So you're looking forward, you've got 360 degrees of rotation. Just rotate yourself 90 degrees in between reps. If you play 4 different scales, play them facing north, south, east, and west. And what that will do is give you a different environmental context and avoid habituating. It's a really, really powerful, simple time hack.
There's a lot of interest in the hacking habituation. I think that was a new idea to lots of people, and there were some comments about that. Mark, you did say you could speak a little more to how to change your location, but in particular, we had a question from Kayla and Amy, who are both pianists, one of whom plays a grand piano, wondering what is in it for them.
Just give up. Look, your environment is so rich. The inner environment is one of it too, is one place where you can do that too. And one way that I hack habituation is to change my inner environment, especially on Thursdays, which is emotion practice day for me. And on Thursdays, I have a whole inventory of emotions like anger, joy, calm, resentment. And I will, like an actor, I will go, I play like emotion bingo, and I'll just land on one and, oh, okay, peace. And I'll play the scale peacefully. And then I flush the inner environment, and then, okay, shame. Like, what would this sound like if I'm feeling incredibly ashamed? And that trains a certain resilience. I learned this. I want to actually go into this for a second. I think it's really important. I noticed maybe 5-6 years ago that I was feeling sometimes a lot of shame in the concert hall. Something wouldn't go the way that I wanted, and I'd feel ashamed. And then I started to notice as I listened to myself more that I could tell when I was feeling ashamed, and that I had a certain sound. Or I could tell when I was feeling shy, and that had a different sound. Or I could tell when I was analyzing as I was playing, and that had a certain sound. And you could hear it. You could hear what it sounded like when I was analyzing. Or you could hear what it sounded like when I was managing my technique. You could hear what it sounded like when I was in an emotional flow state. And when you learn to listen that way, you never go back. You never go back to just saying, oh yeah, that was the right note, a good tone. So the reason that I state this is because, well, you don't change those kinds of patterns overnight. For better or worse, like shame in the concert hall, fear, anxiety, worry, a lot of us have them. And I don't have a lot of that these days, but 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I did. And so I practiced, what I did was I practiced cultivating those emotions in a safe place, in the practice room, understanding what they sound like and accepting them. And that is a different way to practice habituation, in a sense, is actually to get used to some of these challenging emotions by cultivating them, practicing them, seeing what they sound like, changing the inner landscape around, and always having something fresh in your environment, whether it's inner or external.
Wonderful. Well, there were two different and equally valuable answers there. I think, one is that your environment doesn't need to be where you physically are. It can be what physically is around you. And obviously, even if you're sat at a grand piano, you can put different objects in sight. You can change the lighting in the room. Presumably, you can change your environment in a number of ways. But I love that you took it deeper and talked about the inner state. And I guess that touches too on your mastery of state and emotional state when practicing too. It's part of that. Yeah. Being very conscious of what's going on inside.
Yeah. Real quick, as a pianist too, you probably want to get up from the piano bench and go play like table piano at the kitchen table and stuff sometimes too. That can be a way to like figure out what's going on here. That's not the piano's fault.
Oh, hey, one more thing. If you enjoyed this video, please take a second to like it on YouTube, and if you haven't already, please also subscribe to our channel there. That's going to help make sure you get all our latest videos as soon as they come out, and it also helps us reach more people, which means more episodes, better guests, and everybody wins. So please take a second to like this video and hit subscribe.